Thank you to Rocket Money and to our patrons for making this video possible. Also, my friend Ellie and I started a book podcast where we take the trending books from your feeds and unpack the hype around it, look at the marketing, the publishing, and also all the cultural context. Episode 1 of Why You're Reading is already live, wherever you get your podcasts, and there will be a new one every Monday. What does it cost to be beautiful? And why is it that it's always women that have to pay that premium? The abstract notion of beauty has put half the world's population in a rat race where the finish line keeps getting further and further away. Only the wealthy elites are even getting close to the finish line. But good news. This rat race is actually more diverse and inclusive than ever before, and it's your choice whether or not you want to compete. It's actually feminist if you think about it, but just don't think about it too much. In the 21st century, makeup is no longer something that women put on to please men. Lipstick isn't branded as a siren song for hot guys, and powder isn't advertised as something that will please your husband. Nowadays, makeup, skincare, hair care, everything to do with beauty is for us. It's empowering.
You look good. Classy.
Treat yourself to some new mascara because you're worth it. And that €500 facial is actually self-care. It's an investment in you. Or is it?
I wonder what women used to do before eye makeup was invented. Probably walked around with teeny little nothing eyes.
26 long years into this appearance marathon, and I started to wonder, what will this time, money, energy, and labor that we put into enhancing our appearance actually bring? Besides a temporary boost in confidence until the Botox wears off and your roots grow out and you have to empty out your bank account once more. We've been tricked into thinking that beauty is an investment. But unlike the actual investments like property or stocks, things that men typically put their money into, we are not getting our money back. In fact, it seems like these beauty investments offer little, if anything, in return. I might be so crazy to say that it almost seems like they're actually tools to keep women financially disempowered. No, it couldn't be. Mac would never do that to me. Drunk Elephant, they would never. And the plastic surgeons, 90% of whom are men and whose customer base is, again, over 90% women. No, they only have my best interests at heart, right? Right? Let's talk about how beauty standards keep you poor. Hi, I'm Ellen, and you're watching Literacy. And since we're going to be talking about money, the hidden costs of our lifestyle, financial empowerment, it only makes sense that today's sponsor fits with that. And today's video is sponsored by Rocket Money. You might have picked up on kind of maybe from my overall vibe that I have ADHD, which means I'm quite forgetful. And on more than one occasion, some would even say several, it's been alleged, I've seen rumors, I have signed up to subscriptions only to completely forget about them, like 3 days later. That is, until months down the line, I put the puzzle pieces together, kind of like a detective with a bit of red string, and I realized that this subscription that I very quickly forgot about has been taking money out of my bank account for probably months for something I don't even use. Rocket Money is an all-in-one personal finance app that helps you cancel your subscriptions, pay your bills, manage your budget, and grow your savings. It's kind of like the Swiss Army knife of finance apps. The sweet taste of freedom from unwanted subscriptions is only a few taps away because Rocket Money can help identify all of the subscriptions that are coming out of your bank account, and it lets you cancel in the app. You don't even have to talk to anyone on the phone. Rocket Money can also create customized budgets to give you an overview of where you're spending all your money. When using all of its premium features, Rocket Money has helped save its customers up to $740 a year and over $500 million in cancel subscriptions. So take control of your finances today and go to rocketmoney.com/L to get started for free. Thank you, Rocket Money. A quick little note before we dive in. With the rapid increase and shift in beauty standards that has come with the internet and social media, men are feeling more pressure than ever to adhere to a certain beauty standard, and data shows that they are partaking in things like skincare, cosmetic treatments, body enhancements, etc. at an increased rate than before. However, how and ever. Beauty standards still disproportionately affect women and femme-presenting people, and women spend and are expected to spend far more time, money, and energy on their looks than men. So because of that, women are the focus of this video. I'm not ignoring the effect on men, but I'm not focusing on it either. For all the men out there that are falling victim to the beauty standard industrial complex, welcome to hell. Susan Sontag described the gender imbalance well in her essay, The Double Standard of Aging. Women do not simply have faces, as men do. They are identified with their faces. Certainly they care whether they are good looking or not. They suffer over acne, protruding ears, tiny eyes. They hate getting bald. But there is a much wider latitude in what is aesthetically acceptable in a man's face than what is in a woman's. A man's face is defined as something he basically doesn't need to tamper with. All he has to do is keep it clean. A woman's face is the canvas upon which she paints a revised, corrected portrait of herself. Oh, the labor of beauty. It's all a part of women's work. You know, cleaning the house, minding the kids, making dinner, baking a pie.
Can she prepare those favorite dishes of Tim's, just like his mother used to make? No, Margie, your cake didn't turn out so well.
And maybe most important of all, maintaining a head of perfectly styled hair and makeup that sit atop an equally perfect, thin, and fuckable body. In the 21st century, the perfect face and body is for sale, as long as you're willing to put in the money and the work for it. With LED red light masks, at-home laser hair removal, tools like the New Face, and a laser starter kit like that from Lima, which only costs about $2,695. Oh, and I don't know if you saw, but you can't just use like a €25 Revlon hairdryer anymore. No, you need the €600 Dyson and all of its attachments, or maybe you could get away with like a slightly less expensive dupe. And with all of this technology at our fingertips, now there's honestly no excuse for hairy legs, dull skin, or flat hair. The influx of technology meant to optimize your routine reminds me of the kind of mid to late 20th century when households started getting dishwashers, washing machines, and hoovers, all equipment that was meant to free up time for the women stuck at home. And it did take away some of the physical toll of that labor, but it also increased the standard of cleanliness. In an article for The Atlantic, Amanda Mull has dubbed the modern day the golden age of gadgets for girlies, and she makes this same link. Innovations in domestic and personal care technologies tend not to clear the way for more leisure or personal time for women, even if they do reduce the physical strength or skill involved in some of their labor. Instead, they clear the way for even more onerous expectations of how we'll perform, domestically and aesthetically. The results that many of these gadgets promise are the kinds of things that were, until recently, available only to the wealthy, and therefore not the default expectation of most of us. The more financial independence and liberation for women, the higher the beauty standard. And this is no coincidence. Patriarchy and capitalism need its women starving, insecure, and beauty-obsessed to squander any thoughts of rebellion. But even if you do connect the dots, that doesn't mean the shackles immediately spring free and all of a sudden you can look in the mirror with a sense of peace and acceptance. Because it's been a long and steady process of indoctrination. If you are a woman or femme who engages in beauty, let's think for a second. When did you first start doing your makeup? Or when did you first feel like you had to do your makeup? And how long do you think you spend getting ready for work or meeting your friends or going on a date? How much time do you spend every week or month getting your hair or nails or brows or skin done? How much time do you spend taking in information about makeup, hair, skincare, whether it's reading articles or seeing a recommendation video on TikTok? For me, my true indoctrination into the beauty industry started in 2009 or 2010 when I became obsessed with beauty YouTube. I actually wrote a reflective piece called On YouTube, Beauty and Beauty YouTube for my Substack that I just launched. Thank you. I want to read a little excerpt from it now. I was 11 when I first started watching makeup videos. I learned about different coverage foundations, how to blend eyeshadow into your crease, how to pick the perfect red lipstick, and the best products for each skin type. My skin was smooth and my cheeks were pudgy with baby fat. I hadn't yet reached puberty, as I took mental notes on skincare routines and acne coverage, storing them for future reference. I accrued knowledge crucial to my feminine socialization, internalizing messages about flattering silhouettes, beauty standards, and overconsumption. I had always been a girly girl, my tiny hands reaching for plastic high heels and fake lipsticks in toy stores. But the social conditioning of baby doll gifts and pretend kitchens was left behind in early childhood. Now, in tween girlhood, my gender construction was informed by classmates and Disney shows. However, one fateful day I stumbled onto YouTube and found an entire encyclopedia on teen femininity, a digital manual with hours of footage instructing me on how to be a girl, the right way, and I loved every second of it. So it's been 15, almost 16 years since I started kind of accumulating this knowledge of beauty and learning the skill of beauty. And I don't know how much time I've spent in that 15 years, either passively or actively building up my skills. I do know that I probably spend about half an hour to an hour doing my makeup and hair whenever I decide to get ready and get dolled up, but that also does not include showering. And I was thinking about maybe putting these numbers together and say, if I spent an hour getting ready every day, and let's say this includes showering, say this includes kind of averaging out the time that I spend doing my nails or getting my hair done or doing my brows, let's say that all equals an hour a day. So in a year, that would be 365 hours, which totals 15 days. So that's over 2 weeks of my life spent every year doing something related to beauty. Obviously, this is not a scientific number, it's just a little thought exercise, but I did try to find data on how much on average women spend getting ready every day. There was not a lot of studies done and not a lot of data that I could find. Some of the articles were from 2008, some were from 2013, and they varied widely. So I thought instead of trying to include those different statistics, I would just do a little thought exercise. I don't think we talk enough about the disparity in not only the time and money, but the skills and the labor that goes into beauty between men and women. I think times that this is highlighted online is when there's the trend of my boyfriend does my makeup or my brother does my makeup, or asking my husband to name these beauty tools.
Is that a razor?
Yeah, for what?
Trims your eyelashes?
Yes.
And it is funny, how clueless the men are, but it's also just crazy how many of us have this huge, encyclopedia of knowledge and this skill that is most likely not really rewarded in your life. It's just expected that you have this. If I think about the investment of time and energy and money that I've spent on accruing beauty products and the skill of beauty, I probably could have learned another language or an instrument. I probably could have learned about stocks. Not that I want to, but still. And I really don't think that it's an exaggeration to say that all of that time, money, and energy could probably make up a college degree if you put that 15 years worth of labor and money together. And like I was saying about this kind of encyclopedia of knowledge, the labor and skills of beauty is not only encouraged, but it's expected of women in the way that dress codes are formed and the kind of our notions of professionalism, but it's not really rewarded unless you happen to go into the beauty industry. And with the beauty standards increasing year by year, that amount of labor is only going up. And so is the cost.
It's time for me to share with you guys my all-time favorite plastic surgery in all of Hollywood. Frickin' Lively. Definitely had a nose job, maybe 2 nose jobs. Smile became markedly less gummy, which can be done with Botox. She got a fresh set of veneers at some point.
A couple years ago, memes along the format of "you're not ugly, just poor" went viral, showing the vastly altered appearances of celebrities like Bella Hadid and Kendall Jenner, suggesting that it's not your genetics that are the problem, but your bank balance. Don't let that stop you, because plastic surgery clinics have now introduced buy now, pay later schemes, so you can go into debt with a shiny new nose and freshly filled lips. And that's actually not a joke, because people are going into debt for cosmetic treatments. Even during a cost of living crisis, 32% of British people are refusing to stop spending on beauty products and treatments. Recent research from Hyperjar found, "I would literally rather freeze in my own home than have bad hair," says 24-year-old Charlotte Drinkall. "I would so much rather have perfect hair and skin than spend money on food and drink out." Beth Ashley details in this day's article, the Debt Support Center has found that in the past 5 months, the number of women aged 35 to 44 qualifying for debt help increased by 58%, while women aged 25 to 34 have increased by 26%. Men across all age groups only grew by 15%. And of course, all of this debt isn't just from plastic surgery, but the numbers for plastic surgery are going up every single year. The sheer accessibility of treatments like lip filler and Botox has prompted a pendulum swing back to natural forms of beauty. We've seen the Kardashians dissolving filler, reversing their BBLs. We saw Lindsay Lohan step out with a brand new facelift. Mina Ley recently made a really good video about this shift in the beauty standard. And when a woman's beauty is largely equated with her appearance of youth, anti-aging is the goal of so much skincare, makeup, and surgery. The fear of getting old is paralyzing us. So we are paralyzing our muscles in response. We've seen an explicit engagement with these kind of anxieties around aging with recent horror films like The Substance. And like that film highlights, if you go too far with plastic surgery and your efforts become too obvious, you'll end up being the subject of ridicule, and all of that time and money that you spent in the pursuit of beauty and pretty privilege will end up completely backfiring, and you'll prompt people to say things like, Gen Z is aging like milk. The beauty must be natural, or natural looking, because this so-called natural beauty is anything but. It is the result of huge investments of time, energy, and labor. But it's all masked to give the appearance of effortlessness. It's exactly what Gia Tolentino described when she wrote Trick Mirror and described the ideal woman as the work formerly carried out by makeup has been embedded directly into her face. What we used to put on our face to give the appearance of fuller lips, longer lashes, perfect brows, a snatched jawline is now injected, glued, tattooed on, and shaved down. And we also see it pop up in like the trend of doing high maintenance things should be low maintenance, where women show off their nightly, weekly, or monthly routines of staining lips, laminating brows, topping up Botox, whatever else it is. Again, it's not about doing less, but it's about concealing that effort. And the expense, not to mention the pain of LED treatments, of microneedling, of microblading, goes far beyond the cost of a moisturizer, foundation, or brow pencil. This doesn't even touch on the sleep maxing / morning shed trend, where women are putting on wrinkle patches, sheet masks, rollers, mouth tape, jaw straps, silk eye masks, all before bed. We are being convinced that even sleep needs to be productive in our quest for beauty. There's literally no reprieve from the aesthetic labor. Why do we even feel the need to wake up looking hot? As Maria Santapoggi writes for Allure, maybe the real ugliness here isn't in how we look when we go to bed encased in products and tools, but in how we see ourselves in relation to the pursuit of beauty. And what used to be reserved for middle-aged women is now being rebranded for women in their teens and their 20s.
Things in my 20s I wish I would have done. First up is gotten Botox, the first sign I noticed a fine line. It's much easier to prevent a wrinkle than try to get rid of one that's already there.
Baby Botox, preventative facelifts. It's all just manipulation that makes you a lifelong customer, having to swipe your cards every few months, all before your 30th birthday. You're gonna be forced to spend hundreds every few months when the Botox wears off, and facelifts cost thousands, if not tens of thousands. And all of this is framed as an investment in yourself. But aging is inevitable. And all of this money could be used for an actual investment, a down payment on a house, a car, an education, something that will actually give you your money back. Because unless you are a model, an influencer, a celebrity, you're very unlikely to make that money back based off your looks alone. But it's not just the late teens and the early 20s that are being targeted, because no one can escape the fear. No one is free from the phobia of aging, not even children. There was the whole Sephora tween panic last year with 10-year-olds showing off their anti-aging routines on TikTok.
First up, I used two toners. Well, why not?
Here's some things that I do to slow down the aging process as a 14-year-old. I started doing most of these things at 12. I use a retinol twice a day.
And personally, I think that we should be worried. It's terrifying. And it's very different from playing around with makeup at a young age. We are seeing prepubescents using retinols and thinking about Botox. None of this feels like it's experimentation or playing or just fun. It's all wrapped up in this sense of fear and dread around aging, a fear that has sent tweens on quests to turn back the clock, even before that clock has started ticking. Jordan Holman reports for the New York Times, teenagers in the United States have said Sephora is their favorite beauty retailer, surpassing Ulta, according to a survey released in October by the investment bank Piper Sandler. The survey found that teenage respondents spent 23% more on cosmetics, skincare, and fragrance in 2023 than the year before. These tweens and teens are going to become desensitized to the cost of their beauty routines when they're already starting collections of Drunk Elephant, and the money that they're spending at the moment may or may not be their own. More likely it's probably their parents. And so they're being taught from a very young age that you have to spend X amount of money in order to keep up your appearance. But even beyond the financial cost, they are investing time and labor into their appearance that they are never going to get back. In 2023, Dior even tried to launch a skincare line for newborns. I genuinely thought that that was an April Fool's joke. But all of that being said, there's no point for shaming individuals for any of the investments that they're making in beauty culture, because it's really a situation of damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Meanwhile, the ionization mask makes way for a facial uplift.
And this is the real life version of the substance that gives my skin the glow that the girls dream of.
With all of this investment in time, money, and beauty, we have to ask, what do we actually get from our engagements with beauty? Are we getting any return on our investments? To help answer this question, I enlisted the help of Ellen Atlanta, who wrote the book Pixel Flesh. I actually referenced Pixel Flesh in my last video on Matilda Jerv, but I was reading it for this video because Pixel Flesh is all about beauty standards in the digital age and how it impacts women. I really cannot recommend it enough, and I think that if you're interested in this topic, if you're enjoying this video, then you would really enjoy that book. It's already out in hardback and in digital, but the paperback is going to be released very soon. It's going to be released on the 6th of March. And my fellow Ellen Atlanta, was kind enough to sit down and chat with me about the cost and benefits of investing in the beauty standard.
In general, it's really complicated, right? And there's something I was really keen to convey with Pixel Flesh, and when I'm talking to young women, is that the pursuit of beauty is an entirely rational one. We often talk about beauty being frivolous, or it's dismissed as unimportant or women's work or trivial or silly, any of these things. It's entirely rational, and we're told and shown daily that being attractive and being beautiful has worth and has, value in our society. There's a thing called the halo effect.
The halo effect Ellen references here is a study that found that we subconsciously attribute positive attributes to attractive people. So conventionally attractive people may be perceived as more sociable, confident, intelligent, and capable, regardless of whether or not that's true. And this kind of pretty privilege has real tangible effects. Conventionally attractive people are more likely to be granted a loan. They're viewed as healthier and more credible. In the legal system, they're less likely to be caught or reported, and they're typically given more lenient sentences. And in the workplace, they are more likely to be called back for interviews. They're more likely to be hired and promoted. And I read a 1994 study by Hammermish and Biddle that found that workers of above average beauty earn about 10 to 15% more than workers of below average beauty.
So there's a whole system of benefits that come with being conventionally attractive. What's interesting is that when it comes to economic benefits, specifically for women, what's often rewarded is this idea of doing beauty. It's not necessarily being attractive, it's about showing effort to engage with a beauty standard. Investing, quote unquote, in your beauty routine does benefit you to an extent when you're shown to be willing to adhere to a standard, when you're shown to be willing to prescribe to a certain set of behavioral rules, and shown to be making an effort in beauty. What's really interesting, though, is that men are rewarded more for showing willingness to engage in this behavior than women are. And that's interesting because the list of requirements or list of treatments, list of products that men need to engage in is so much smaller. We think about the list of beauty treatments that women are often required to get as kind of essential mandates for our humanity. So things like wearing makeup, having your hair looking, well groomed, shaving, having your nails neat and tidy, let alone done, maybe having your brows, your lashes, your teeth done. And then we go as far in some industries as Botox and filler and achieving this kind of increasingly augmented beauty standard. Whereas for men, it might be things like showered,
Yeah.
relatively well shaved, you know, having a nice haircut. But men are rewarded more for putting in what is far less effort than women are. There's another layer to this, which is that by that point, you're investing a significant amount of not only money, but time into your physical appearance, into getting these treatments done in order to be shown to be investing effort into and labor into your appearance. But when we factor in things like the gender pay gap, where we're already at an economic disadvantage, you're kind of starting here, you're starting at below zero, at net negative. And then you're being told that in order to achieve not even parity, in order to gain on men, you have to then invest a significant amount of money. So then you're economically you're even further down here. And that's even to just achieve parity level of treatment with men. You're not actually advancing yourself. In the long term, it means that men end up with spare cash that they can invest into property or into stocks, and women end up with, you know, investing all of their spare cash, investing into their appearance, which is, you know, needs constantly updating, constantly topping up. I wrote recently for Dazed about a thing called beauty burnout. We're stuck in this loop. One woman described it as like being on a hamster wheel of, once you start doing these things, they just constantly need updating. Like, if it wasn't my hair that needed redying or cutting, it was my brows needed redoing or my lashes needed redoing, or, you know, and it's especially impacting women of color who are held to even more tighter standards when it comes to beauty, especially with their hair. Often, unfortunately, the research suggests that for most people, the investment they're putting into beauty is not translating, it's not worth it. And this is kind of what I meant by it's a privilege that also generates privilege, is that most often it's the people closest to the beauty standard that stand to benefit from increased adherence to it. There is only, for certain marginalized people, there is only so much work you can do. And we are told over and over again, whether that's especially online, where, you know, being visible and adhering to a very specific algorithmically encouraged beauty standard seemingly stands to get you free holidays, free clothes, free stuff all the time, free access to these like really luxurious venues. It seems like a really easy trade. But I think what we need to remember is what kinds of people are being offered those opportunities, and the fact that it's not readily available to everyone, and that this idea of an increasing class divide between the, you know, the professionally beautiful, the algorithmically beautiful, and the not is increasingly widening.
Marginalized people who are further away from the beauty standard to begin with must invest so much more in order to even catch up to that baseline. The British Beauty Council found that Black women spend 6 times more on beauty products and services than their white counterparts, but this investment doesn't necessarily pay off. White influencers on average get paid 50% more than their Black, Asian, and minority ethnic counterparts. For trans women, adhering to the feminine beauty standard is a matter of safety, because passing as like sufficiently feminine can protect them from hate crimes and discrimination. But for trans women, that barrier to entry is so much higher, because reaching that feminine beauty standard often includes costly procedures like facial feminization surgery and boob jobs. And then reaching the beauty standard and femininity can become this kind of tangled web. The trans author Sean Fay spoke about this to Ellen Atlanta for Pixel Flesh. You fuse these ideas in your head. Being beautiful and attractive is tied to being worthy and socially desirable. If you're trans, that also gets fused with passing.
The empowerment language is really interesting. I talk about this in Pixel Flesh, this idea that it came up in the same way investment did. It's kind of one of these words that just came up over and over and over again in like initial talks with women about beauty. And it's so often both of those words felt like a way to just dismiss, or to kind of just put an end to the conversation, right? To be like, oh, I'm empowered, or oh, it's an investment. And it's hard to then go any deeper once you've said that. It kind of shuts the conversation down entirely. And it takes away from having a more nuanced conversation. And I found that once I started asking more questions, you kind of, the floodgates then come down, and we start talking about, well, what are we exchanging here, and is that really worth it, and is that something, when it's put in plain terms, that we actually are enjoying and are feeling empowered by? And I think we have to start thinking about, you know, a lot of this language is employed as a marketing tool, and I think we really need to interrogate what we gain, because I love beauty. I love this. I love beauty culture. I love that it's such a point of connection and self-expression and community. And I think we need to remember what we gain from it and why this is worth it, and also what we stand to lose. And one of the women I spoke to for the book really eloquently phrased it as beauty is a negotiation of power, right? It's a negotiation of opportunity. It's a negotiation of what you're willing to give in order to get something else. And I think if we reframe it like that, we can start to have more interesting and nuanced and critical conversations about what the bargain is here. Would we rather spend that time on beauty, or would we rather spend the time on this? Like, what is worth it for us in the long term? And again, I love beauty. I grew up, from when I was really little, dyeing my hair pink and playing with makeup, and it really coming from a space of curiosity and creativity. And I think that's what I'm trying to get back. It was never about concealing and contouring and erasing. We've done it for centuries, for millennia, this idea of expressing ourselves through beauty, whether that's kind of ancient forms of tooth gems or hairstyling, or it was cultural practice, it was creative practice and community-driven practice. I talk in the book even about the idea of having a friend do your hair or do your makeup, and how intimate and beautiful that is as an experience of having someone touch your face or stroke your hair, and how much I miss that, or how much you realize how beautiful that is when you're doing it. And yeah, I'm passionate about reclaiming that. And I think again it comes back to having those really honest conversations with ourselves, where it's again, would you do this if you were on a desert island is one thing. Also coming to terms with I'm doing this because of this reason. This is the bargain, this is the exchange, and I'm going into that fully aware. Also the impacts that you have on other women and other people, right, is something that we need to think about. And thinking about complicity and the impact of that is something I've had to reckon with hugely with this. Again, with this idea of beauty investment, the more that we believe that to be the case, the more we reinforce a culture where beauty does have value. We kind of uphold it with the belief that it's real. I think we need to start making decisions for the collective, with the collective in mind, especially those of us who have more privilege in this space need to kind of start doing less, start showing up in different ways, because a lot of people don't have the choice. A lot of marginalized people don't have the choice to not engage.
Like so many others, I have a tricky relationship to beauty. I have always been a girly girl. I think as a toddler, my favorite colors are pink and purple. I wanted anything sparkly and glittery and glossy. And to this day, I still really do enjoy beauty and hair and makeup and nails. I think what becomes tricky is that so much of how we're taught is the right way or the best way to do your hair and your makeup and everything is to appeal to the male gaze. So then it's tricky to figure out, what do I actually enjoy and what have I been taught looks the best. I think I also started spiraling at some point where I was wondering do I actually enjoy the process of sitting down and getting ready and getting dolled up? Or is this something that I'm just telling myself so that I don't have to deal with the frustration of it all? And the frustration is always heightened when I talk to the men in my life, and I realize that they don't have the same just invisible weight constantly bearing down on them. A couple months ago, one of my male friends was talking to me because he had a crush, and he was saying that it was exciting, but he was also exhausted from constantly thinking about his appearance. And he was like, do you ever get that? I feel I'm just always checking my hair before I go downstairs, or I'm just thinking about how I look all the time. And I had to be peace and love. This was kind of a ridiculous question, because this is just what women go through every day of their lives. This kind of thing about constantly thinking about whether you're attractive is how I feel constantly. Okay, and then you were talking about the appearance, and there's something that, no offense, I had to laugh. When you were oh, do you know when you're getting ready, do you ever think about how other people, whether other people think you're attractive or whatever? Babes, I know I'm saying things that you already know, but as a woman, our entire conception of ourselves is literally framed around the male gaze. We have internalized male gazes, and it's torture. Everything about how we craft our appearance, how we do our hair, how we do our makeup, it's all tailored to be the most attractive to men possible. I genuinely cannot stress the amount that informs our entire perception of ourselves. Whether it's oh, I'm getting ready to go out, leave the house, whatever. And I'm like, okay, I'm getting ready to my makeup, and then I do my makeup the way that I'm taught that it looks like most attractive to men. Or if I'm like, I'm not doing my makeup, I decide not to, and I'm leaving the house. It's not even like that is a mindless decision either. So do I think about that? I think about that every goddamn day in my life. Even if I was just going to the shop, there will always be a thought, however brief, it could be a second, it could be a minute, where I'm like, oh, should I do my makeup? No, it's fine. Or I'm like conscious of the fact that I'm going out without makeup or without my hair done or whatever it might be. I'm going out like not looking my best. It's never passive. It's never something that I'm doing without thinking. It's never something that just like doesn't cross my mind at all. There's always like a choice and consideration into how I'm going to present myself to the world. Do you know what is another curse of being a woman that I was thinking while I was on my walk? I was like feeling annoyed because I was like, I'm ugly right now. And I don't want to be perceived while I'm ugly. Part of it is like people don't understand. People in the park, in the club, aren't going to be understanding the irony of this. And also I'm like, this is a baggy jumper, baggy pants, and I have a cold, and I don't look my best. And I was like, I hate feeling ugly in public. But I was also like, why do I care? And this was the war of the two wolves inside me. And like I said, it's this invisible burden that just takes up mental space no matter what. And I've worked on shrinking that mental burden, but it's still there. And I think as women, as femme-presenting people, we are always hyper conscious of our appearance, because we know after years of internalizing messages from the media, from friends, from family, whoever, that our worth is determined by our appearance. And I was thinking about this recently, and I realized how normal it was to see female content creators, whether it be like in a YouTube video or in a TikTok, address their appearance. And it's the same with friends in real life as well, because how many times have you like seen your friends or seen in a video of someone online, someone make like an excuse about their appearance or just like address their appearance in some way, saying things like, oh, I know my hair is greasy, I really need to wash it, or like, please ignore the like pimples on my chin, I'm on my period, or I know I look rough right now, but I just went to the gym, or I just woke up, or my makeup looks rough because I'm about to go to bed. And how many times have you yourself felt the need to like make some sort of similar address? There's this need to clarify that I don't look my best right now, and apologize for it as if it's a sin. And I have seen this and heard this countless times from women, but I never really hear it or see it from men, whether that be like online or in real life. And I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, but it does feel like there's just so many vlogs and TikToks that I've watched where people will just always feel the need to acknowledge something about their appearance. I think it really shows that we've internalized this idea that it is shameful to not look your best. And it makes you feel like there's this unspoken weight of judgment in the room that has to be dispelled with either an acknowledgement or an apology. But I do know that my work as a content creator makes me have a very tricky relationship to beauty, because on the one hand, I know that the better that I look in a thumbnail or in a video, the more likely people are to click on and engage with it, and the more aesthetically pleasing the video will be overall. Femme creators are also just much more likely to be criticized for our voice, for our appearance, for our demeanor, whatever, than male creators. So there's these elements of self-protection and this actual cost benefit analysis going on. And because of all of that, I think I tend to find filming quite stressful, because not only am I trying to remember what I need to say in for my script, and then I'm kind of performing this version of myself, this kind of illiteracy version, but then I'm also constantly worried about how I look. And I think that's actually just the most stressful of it all. The longest part of filming is the getting ready beforehand. Then I'm going to be staring at my face for hours and going through it frame by frame, seeing my face move in ways that the human eye was not meant to detect. In the digital age, and we saw this post-COVID with the Zoom fatigue, we see ourselves so much. And I think that the invention of front-facing cameras on smartphones as well has just made us stare at ourselves so much more and just take pictures of ourselves. And overall, we were just not meant to look at ourselves this much. And as well, with the digital age, we're at a time where there is no real privacy, because you can theoretically have a picture taken of you or take your picture and broadcast it at any time. And it always just like strikes me when I see like a thirst edit of a guy, like a male content creator, and you know, he's wearing a hoodie and sweatpants and he has acne and everything, and I'm just like, damn, like I don't think that happens for women. And it's none of these men's fault that like they're allowed to just show up as they are, but it also doesn't like detract from my own sense of frustration with like how I feel like I need to construct myself in order to sit down in front of a camera. But then if you look at the most popular like femme and female content creators, most, if not like all of them, are probably going to be very like beautiful or put a lot of effort into their appearance. Whether or not they make content about beauty, they're probably going to have like a very strong engagement with beauty just to kind of construct their like online persona. I am hopeful though with what Ellen was talking about beauty as a negotiation of power, and you know, really thinking about our engagement with beauty, as well as like having open conversations like this. We can find like the pressure valves to kind of relieve ourselves of that beauty burden. Obviously it's not going to be solved in one video, and like kind of like we were talking about in the cost benefit section, that no one should be shamed for their engagement with beauty. Like obviously you can see that I've done my hair, I've done my makeup, and I still enjoy all of those things. But like I think kind of the crux of this video is that it shouldn't be mandatory, and we shouldn't have to put so much time, money, energy, labor, etc. into beauty when it's not going to be rewarded. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you enjoy the kind of the experimentations with form, the play with the medium, with the interview, and also like this like kind of little personal section. I don't know if it's from kind of like writing essays in college where I'm like, oh, I feel like I can't just write like a personal opinion. Everything needs to be kind of backed up with analysis or statistics or whatever, because this is like a video essay format. But I think it's actually quite fun to include some personal things. And I don't know why I had this like thing in my head where I was like, oh, people probably won't be like as interested in my own like personal reflections on something like than intellectual analysis, or like I don't know why I felt like I needed to kind of qualify everything. And I don't know why I felt like maybe just having more personal things would kind of detract from like the worth of a video essay, when I really enjoy like the personal elements of the like creators that I watch. So intrigued to hear what you think. Yeah, again, thank you very much for watching, and please let's continue this conversation in the comments. I will either see you in the comments or I will see you in my next video. Bye. Special shout out to our Elle Woods and our Sharpay Evans tier patrons, and an extra shout out to Eric Danielson and Cecilia Diarville for helping make this video possible.